Hey there, Games Apprentice back with another Evercade review. This week I'm going to be looking at the Bitmap Brothers Collection 1. Is it a cleverly curated collection of classics, or is this one a case of too much speedball spoils the broth? Let's find out. Founded in 1987, many consider British developer the Bitmap Brothers to be the first great rock stars of the video game industry, an image which its members were keen to encourage with carefully staged press photographs. The team developed a solid reputation for technically proficient games across a variety of different genres, with many Bitmap Brothers titles regarded as the best in their fields at the time of their original release. Looking back, founding member Mike Montgomery admits that many of the company's games were probably a bit too difficult, because at the time, he says, the company designed games that they wanted to play. For us, it was actually quite hard to think that somebody else would want to play something that easy. Are you up for the challenge of some of the Bitmap Brothers' greatest hits? The manual's pretty decent with this one. All the games get a 4-page spread, which is pretty helpful considering these games aren't as straightforward as most Evercade games. There's only 5 games on this one, and there's not too much I haven't heard of before, but still I was pretty excited to check this one out, so here are the games on it ranked from 5 to 1. Number 5, Speedball. If you've never heard of this, it's a futuristic sport game in which you have to throw a ball in the opponent's goal. There's no fouls in Speedball, you can smash up your opponent's players, and most importantly goalkeeper to make scoring easier. Personally, I was pretty excited to play the original Speedball because I'd never played it before, and I played a lot of its sequel back on the Amiga as a kid. The original Speedball won the Golden Joystick Award for Best 16-bit Game back in 1988. This, unfortunately, isn't that game. As you can tell from the graphics, it's clearly an 8-bit port. I suspect from the box art that this is the Sega Master System version. I'm not sure why they decided to put this one on the collection instead of the original, but here we are. Speedball plays a bit like Sensible Soccer, where you've basically got one button to do everything. It auto-changes player, which can be a bit confusing and annoying. There's no cool curve on the ball or anything. It's a bit too zoomed in for any forward passing strategy, and ironically the ball travels incredibly slow for something called Speedball. You can throw the ball in the air by holding down the one button the game uses, but it's difficult to tell when it's in the air or on the ground. By each goal, there are 2 bounce pads. These are incredibly annoying where they're placed, and they constantly get in the way. Like most 8-bit sport games that aren't called Tecmo Bowl, this game just hasn't aged well. Other than nostalgia, I can't imagine why anyone would want to play this for long when there are 2 better Speedball games on this cart. It's obviously just here for historical purposes, but then why didn't they just put the actual original on? Crazy. Number 4, Xenon II. I've not come across this one before, and I don't know what happened to Xenon 1 and why that's not on this collection. Graphically, it's a pretty weird looking shooter. The sound effects are a bit naff, and there's no music. Still, it's pretty fun to play. You fly up through levels, hammering the shoot button to destroy everything you can see. It's got the odd choice of having a reverse in case you go a wrong route and hit a dead end, although just better level design would be better, to be honest. Explosions and incoming fire are both the same colour, which makes bullets hard to see, and they also don't stand out too much from the background. It can be a bit painful to play tapping the shoot button, as the faster you tap the more bullets you fire. Unless you want repetitive strain injury, I'd highly recommend investing in the auto fire upgrade. You get stuff like this by collecting money throughout the level, and also things that you can sell. Then at the end of the level, you go to a shop where you can buy cool upgrades for the next level. Go overboard, and you might end up starting the level off looking something like this. It's not the best shooter on the Evercade, but it's decent. Number 3, Speedball 2100.
A century from now, mankind will have transcended the suffering that has blighted our past. National boundaries will blur and fade as a handful of vast corporations rule the globe with a ruthless efficiency. There will be no hostility, no crime, no war.
I had no idea that this existed. I thought Speedball died with Speedball 2, so I was really excited to play this one. It takes a bit of getting used to, as it feels a lot more chaotic than Speedball 2, which is saying something if you've played Speedball 2. Still, if you stick with it, you'll find there's a fun speedball game here. There's tons of modes and options to keep you going, so if you do enjoy the game, it should last you a while. The camera can finally be zoomed out, but not by very much. You're still unable to manually switch players, but to be honest with how fast and chaotic this one is, I'm not sure that'd help. Graphically, it looks a lot worse than Speedball 2, and this is one of the unfortunate things about the PlayStation 1. They chose to move to 3D, and early 3D games just do not look good and just haven't aged well. Still, it's nice to see the PS1 game on the Evercade collection. Fingers crossed we'll get more games from the library. I guess the only downside to this game is that it takes up space on a cart where there's probably only going to be one Speedball game that you play in. Number 2. Speedball 2. I was initially worried that Speedball 2 wasn't going to hold up, especially when I played Speedball 1. Luckily, within a few minutes of playing, those fears were put completely at ease because, like Sensible Soccer, Speedball 2 is timeless. It's better than the first game in almost every way. There's more people on your team, the arena's bigger and more interesting, it's faster, there's more power-ups, and there's plenty of interesting ways to score. Aside from getting 10 points for a standard goal, you can also score by knocking out players, hitting stars on the wall, hitting the bounce domes, and using the score multiplier ramp. It adds a lot more strategy and depth to the game without losing its basic fundamentals. Controls wise, nothing's different from the first game, everything just feels a lot better. The most impressive part of Speedball 2, however, is the career mode. Looking back, this is probably what sparked my love for football management games. You can train your players, get new equipment to improve their abilities, and purchase players in the transfer market. The only downside is that the menus are overly confusing. It takes a while to figure out how to actually do what you're trying to do. Even in the manual, it tells you how to do it, but things just don't gel. It's just not very well designed. For some reason, they're stuck with these same menus in Speedball 2100 as well. If you're into old school sport games, with its deep career mode, or deep for the early 90s, and fun multiplayer action, Speedball 2 is worth revisiting or worth playing for the first time. Number 1. The Chaos Engine. The Chaos Engine isn't just the best game on this collection, it's one of the best games I've played on the Evercade so far. I played this one co-op as a kid on the Mega Drive, but I didn't really remember much about it, and I was looking forward to checking it out again when I saw it pop up on this collection, and it didn't disappoint. It's a top-down shooter similar to something like Smash TV, which by the way needs to come to Evercade too. However, the levels are like large mazes that open up as you find keys. Enemies don't come at you in droves, but you don't have much health, so it's more about killing them without taking a hit, rather than just mowing down loads at once. You get a choice between 6 classes, all with their individual skills, weapons and attributes. Throughout the level you pick up money that you can spend on upgrading your character or getting new weapons. You can either play alongside a friend or the AI. The AI is borderline useless, it's definitely a better game co-op, but even playing solo I still really enjoyed it. This is definitely worth checking out. The Bitmap Brothers Collection 1 is a small collection of games that's let down by the odd omission of the original Speedball game, instead favouring an 8-bit port which isn't very good. Whether or not you want this collection is basically going to come down to, do you want Speedball and do you want the Chaos Engine? You're either going to love this collection or you're going to hate it, and that should make it a really easy decision for you to purchase it or not. Great games, but a lack of variety and no hidden gems mean that for that reason I'm going to score this game a 6.5 out of 10. As always, thanks for watching, keep the comments coming and don't forget to click subscribe. I'm the Games Apprentice and I'll catch you next time with another Evercade review.